وكرر الوغى.
الصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله أعداءهم أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters, everyone listening to the Shia podcast. For this episode, we have invited the painter of infallibles, basically paints the Ahlul Bayt, shares the message of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim as-salam.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zainab Sujat Haider. I'm a revert of 7 years and I live in Sydney.
So, could you tell us about the beautiful story on how you found the path of Ahlul Bayt?
I was originally a part of the Hanafi school. I considered myself more Sufi than anything, actually. My first 2 years of being Muslim. And then after a split from my first partner, I didn't convert for him. I was Muslim when I met him. After that split, because anything to do with Shiism was banned in our house. It was more Wahhabi than anything. And there was no questions allowed to be asked. And then when I separated from them, I started doing more reading because I was more disenfranchised. Like, I became Muslim at the height of ISIS. So that was an incredibly, like, the media onslaught against Muslims. And it kind of got to the point of reevaluating my faith, reevaluating why I'm Muslim, reevaluating the position of women in Islam and everything that I'd seen culturally done and not Islamically done. And it got to the point where I was just researching, and then I made a lot of Shia friends online through Instagram. And it was also one of my best friends, Nadeem. He's a Sufi. And for many years, he told me about Imam Ali, alayhi salam. But I didn't realize that that was the same Ali. I had no idea. That was like kept hidden from me. And it sounds so stupid if it's to a born Shia, but when you're a Sunni, you never know that Imam Ali is Ali. And when I figured out that, because I always thought Imam Ali was like Imam Ghazali, it was just another Ali. And then when I realized that that was the same Ali, I'm like, hang on, how come there's quotes by him that I've never seen before? A lot of things are hidden. A lot of things don't want to be talked about. And I think it's just a lack of knowledge more than anything, more than hatred. Because when I was Sunni, I went by the name of Aisha. And I was told that I was like her in the fact that I questioned everything and that I was I didn't know that women could study at Hausa. You know what I mean? Like in the Sunni world, there's not much emphasis on women studying Islamic studies, or from my experience of 2 years being Muslim. And, you're never taught these things. It's always with a cloud of just the Sahaba. And then when I realized that the rabbit hole goes deeper, then you start questioning, hang on, why was I never told this? Why could I never access this in English? Why has this been kept from me? And that's when a lot of anger kicks in as to, if it's plainly there, why can't I access it? And then why was it never told to me? But that's what started the rabbit hole for me. So I liken it to a rabbit hole because the further you go, the more you get lost. And it just, sometimes it feels never ending. But yeah, it was quite the journey through a rabbit hole for me. So sometimes it feels like the veils were lifted for me. So I know some Shia who studied Shiism like as converts for years before they decided to become Shia. So the more that I did research, the more that I started questioning things. Then I actually dreamt of Lady Fatima, and that solidified it for me. So I was basically handed on the silver plate to be Shia. So I was umming and ahhing, is this the right path? Is this what's really going to happen? And then in my dream, I didn't know that it was her at first. So there was a lady and she had a gnaw on her face, and she led me in prayer in upturned dirt, like mud. And I remember in the dream saying, no, it's too dirty. We need to pray only on carpets. And she said, no, this is better. And then the next day, I learnt what a turba is. So that solidified it for me. And I told one of my friends that was helping me learn about Shiism. And they're like, do you know who that was? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then they're like, dude, you just had the absolute Shia dream that you had it handed to you.
I don't know how I would feel if I had a dream like that. So would you say like that was like the main turning point for you, basically, the dream and the turba and
Yeah,
that?
yeah. And I'd actually dreamt of as soon as I learnt that about dreams, I said to this same friend, I said, look, I had a dream when I was a kid in a similar type of way. And they said, what do you mean? I said, it was after 9/11. So I was raised Anglo-Australian, raised quite racist, country town. And I remember after 9/11, that's when the propaganda started. You have to hate Arabs, you have to hate Muslims. This is what we do. This is our enemy. And I was a kid, so I was maybe 10, and that's when you're old enough to discern right from wrong and morals of things. And that's when I was getting inundated by both the media and my culture to hate Muslims and to hate Arabs. And then that same week, I dreamt of an Arab man coming to me coming to my house. And in this dream, he was the most beautiful human I've ever seen in my life. In this case, I did see his face. And he said, "Why are you scared of us?" And then I said, I saw this on the news. I watched the towers fall. I've been told that I need to be scared of you. And he said, no, 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 we love you. We love you. And he kept saying that over and over again. And then when I woke up, I felt like I was cleansed a bit. I felt like all of that hatred and anger that I've been building up that week was gone. It was dissipated from me. And then ever since that, it's like it changed my heart. And then I never was racist. So, and then when I learned after I told my friend about my dream of Lady Fatima, I said, yeah, I had the dream of that guy when I was a kid. And then they're like, oh my God. So for me, it made that childhood experience make sense. And then when I started realizing the irfan of dreams, then I'm like, okay, this makes my life make sense. If I can have a spiritual dream now, and I had a spiritual dream as a child before I was even Shia, then this is the path to follow.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it connects, like your past dream and this dream you had later, which you could say. So it's a big blessing that you were able
Yeah,
to see the
alhamdulillah.
characters in your dreams. Do you know which person that was in your first dream as
I
that?
believe it was Imam Mahdi, alayhi salam, from my other dreams I've had of him. So I believe it is him. Um, but I've dreamt of other figures and they did say who they were. But it's my last dream of Imam Mahdi, alayhi salam. That's when I realized that was the same guy from my dream when I was a kid.
You need to teach me how to dream. I'm trying to get dreams like you. Which one of the infallibles would you say that you connected with the most, like when you converted or pre-conversion, post-conversion, like the
Pre-conversion,
main
it
one?
was most definitely Ali, alayhi
Mhm.
salam, because I always enjoyed everything about the Sahaba that was written about him. I always kind of devoured any information about Imam Ali, alayhi salam. I always found him to be of the best character. Um, he always fascinated me as a historical figure, before even an Islamic figure. Um, and then post becoming Shia would most definitely be Lady Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. So, it was her that kind of opened up the floodgates for me. It was her that showed me how to pray. And then ever since then, everything, it reveals itself slowly yet surely. So, yeah, and that's why I paint them, because there's such a spiritual connection with myself. And then also, like, a background of being Catholic. And like, I often would joke, even though I'm married, I would always make the joke in the past that if Muslims could be nuns, I would be a nun. And I'd be painting like the icons or like just religious works and writing. I was a student as well under Sheikh Mansour Lagai.
Oh,
And, I always thought religion was to be absolutely immersed in it. So I don't paint for the dunya. I paint for the akhirah. And I feel like my artworks are very different to everyone else. And like, I've been asked to paint a guy's dream of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam in the past. So I feel like, if my dreams have that connection to my art, and then also if I'm recreating someone else's dream for them, then I am kind of winning. Really, that's the best compliment you can get.
Yeah, mashallah. I've seen your art before, and I like how you have kind of put together your two interests, religion and art, and made into one thing. When did you like get into art and painting? This type of
Ever
like
since I was a kid,
generally.
but
This is
like
the
professionally since 2009 or semi-professional. And then I got into Islamic only painting because when I was Sunni, I was banned from painting. I was totally banned. It was just learn calligraphy,
right?
oh, that's it. You're not allowed to depict humans because of that one hadith regarding Lady Aisha. And you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. And I was so heartbroken because I always felt like my talent was God given. So it kind of felt like, is this my test that I'm not allowed to do my art? Like I kind of accepted that that was maybe my test, but I felt like, my soul died a little bit because I couldn't create. And then when I was researching more into Shiism, I've noticed that every time I Googled Imam Ali to do more research, there's pictures of him, there's paintings of him. And I started delving into, hang on, how come there's allowed to be paintings? And then it all made sense, like the restrictions on painting humans. And then I found Ayatollah Sistani's fatwa. He's my marja now. But I found his fatwa about depicting the infallibles. And it all made more sense to me. And, religion and art are so intertwined. It's a way for us to connect to the mystical. And it's a way for us to express our spirituality. So all of what I felt that was missing was handed to me. And then as a way for me paying my dues, I'm painting them.
How much did like the message in your like paintings and art change after you transitioned into Shia Islam?
I feel like there's more power behind my art now. Like even though I did do previous religious art, like of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, I did do very dark artworks beforehand, but I feel like as soon as I started painting the Ahlul Bayt, there's a different depth to it. And it's not just in my skill, but it's just in the feeling. If you have it on a wall, it kind of takes up the room, even if it's a small painting. There's very much an essence that's there, which is very powerful.
Do you think I could get the painting for free, maybe?
You can get
Sure.
prints for free.
Do you like have a favorite
We
painting?
can do prints for free. A
I'm just
favorite painting.
yeah, your favorite painting.
I did one of Lady Zainab, and that's actually in New York. It's sold to New York to a lovely sister who bought it. But everyone seems to gravitate towards that artwork. And that artwork was really, really hard for me to do because it just hurt my heart to do it. And then also it's my namesake. So connecting with my namesake made it 10 times more painful to paint. So that's why it's my favorite, even though it's probably not my best stylistically, but it's still my favorite because of how much I had to do a labor of love to produce it.
So I'm guessing it was like a painting of the attack.
It's just a painting of her with her arm extended towards the moon. And at that time, I didn't know much about Abbas. And my friend said, oh, so it's her gesturing about Abbas being the moon of Bani Hashem. And I'm like, no, I didn't even get that reference, but that reference just kind of unraveled itself in my painting. So then that added another level of depth.
I like the way your like stories connect to each other. The past connect to the future, and like in these crazy ways through dreams and through the paintings, and that's how you like gain
Yes.
knowledge. I heard like you spoke about the Qamar Bani Hashim, the moon of Bani Hashim. How would you say
Mhm.
that? And what would you say is the meaning of that? How does that affect you? You could say.
I always saw it as a spiritual way of saying that he's like moon being the Noor of Bani Hashem, but I don't even know if that's my own interpretation or whether that's maybe I should study it more. I should actually be a really good Hausa student and re-enroll. But like for me, it just hurt because as soon as I learnt that, then I thought, okay, well, in the painting, she's gesturing towards the moon, so therefore maybe she's calling out towards him. Maybe it's a representation of him that I didn't even intend in the artwork, and then now it's there. But yeah, like, I'm still learning, even though I'm a Hausa student, even though I've been Muslim for so many years, like, you still pick things up, certain parts of biographies, you still, like I've only been Muslim for 7 years, so I'm only 7 years old in Muslim, and I've only been Shia for 5. So I'm still 5 years old in Shia Islam. So certain bits, chop and change. And then I noticed that, I it's a common thing with the Shia I've noticed is that our Quranic knowledge goes down, but our biographies of the Ahlul Bayt goes up. So I'm kind of getting to the point of I need to work on both. So inshallah I can do that with my Hausa studies moving forward.
Yeah, inshallah. Wish you all the best.
Thank
How is
you.
the how is the life? How is the education?
It's all online through eHausa. So I'm doing the diploma. So the diploma was developed by Sheikh Mansour Lagai as like a pre-Hausa, but then also he created it to kind of encapsulate a full 10 years of Hausa. So he said after the diploma, you're actually qualified to teach at Islamic schools to obviously just teach religion.
Wow.
But it's basically, it just encapsulates everything. And he says, but you can't study the bachelor with him unless you've done the diploma first. So I'm hoping to, around my work schedule, to finish my diploma. And then I want to go all the way up to a master's, maybe a PhD, just to, make myself struggle a little bit more. I've already got a degree, but everyone's like, why you keep on studying? I'm like, because I wasn't born into this. I wasn't raised with the stories of the Ahlul Bayt. I wasn't raised with the Quran playing in my house. I feel like I've got a lifetime to study and make up for. And then also, like, many converts will have babies before they're even knowledgeable. And it's like, well, no, I want my womb to be a womb of ilm. And maybe that's an egotistic thing. I don't know. But I just feel like there's a spirituality of having a womb of ilm and passing on, I'll be starting a whole new Shia generation. So I've got to be careful. So that's one of the many reasons why I'm studying.
Why do you think that it's mostly the reverts or the converts that go into Hausa and like they go deep into Islam more than the born ones?
I always get frustrated when someone asks me a fiqh question and then they go, oh, hang on, I'll just go ask my dad. I'm like, okay, are you going to check dad or are you going to go to check Google? I'm like, why aren't you learning things for yourself? And it always frustrates me. And it's like, they'll go, oh, no, ask my dad. I'm like, okay, is your dad just parroting what he was taught by his dad? Or is it actually Islamic knowledge? And then then they would go, oh, sorry. And then it's gotten to the point now with born Shia. I always, being very, very Aussie and very Western, I always say separate your culture from religion because you're mixing it in too much and you're creating some falsehoods within it. So if there's anything that's happening that's more cultural than religious, I always will specifically state I'm not partaking in that or I'm not doing that. I don't approve of that. But it just depends. It depends on the situation. But with born Shia, I think, you're blessed. You're absolutely blessed. You're blessed into a world where you're born with the truth and you never need to seek it out. So I think that sometimes the born Shia take that for granted. But our studies and our scholars, our imams, the works of our imams are beyond anything that you can compare. So I feel like only sometimes maybe during Ramadan born Muslims will do some more research, sometimes during Muharram. But all the rest of the year, no one's looking up anything unless you're trying to prove a debate with your uncle over what's haram and what's halal. But I feel like, we're the Jafari school, we're the school of thinking. And I feel like there needs to be more of a resurgence on making Hausa more acceptable, especially to females. But I think it's just we need a culture shift over depending on dad as a sheikh. We need to, unless dad actually is a sheikh and did do Hausa studies, like, we need to actually live up to the fact that we are the Jafari school. We need to be learned.
I definitely agree with you on that one. There's too many people that are taking from their parents just because they're parents. It's not because they're knowledgeable or they know anything. It's just because those are my parents. Of course, they'll know. That's why they just take from them. To wrap it up with this one question, how do you believe we can serve the Imam of our time, Imam al-Mahdi, Ajala Farajah?
In multiple ways. My most recent dream of the alphabet was of him, and he was waiting for me in a cave, and I had some sort of mission, but I know that I had a meeting with him. He specifically wanted to meet with me. So I kind of feel that drive more than the average person, because I know that he wanted to meet me. So I kind of feel like, I do need to do my Hausa studies. I do need to keep painting. I need to keep everything more alive. I need to keep following the school of the Applebait to the best of my ability. So, we all wax and wane with our spirituality. So I think sometimes it does have to come down to discipline. Like, I say that more for myself than, judging anyone else's character, but faith does come down to discipline, as much as it does learning and the spirituality. So like, if you're disciplined on yourself, you're making yourself more disciplined and you're making the Imam of our time happy. But yeah, like there's multiple ways, not just, doing your salah, but it's, studying. There's an entire book of his du'as, and no one ever learns them. No one ever reads them. I don't know one Shia house that has that book in their house. And it's kind of gotten to the point of, okay, well, we'll have Najul Balaga in our house, but we won't have anything written or any books on the Mahdi. But we say that we're waiting for him. And then also, like, there's so many signs. It's more that people are like, oh, this is viral. This is a sign that the Mahdi is coming. I'm like, okay, well, show me your references. How did you learn that? And then it comes down to, we need to be more learned. We need to learn what the actual signs are. We need to learn more about the Dajjal. We need to learn more about what's coming. Because, if a revert in Sydney had a dream that the Imam was waiting for them in a cave, doesn't that kind of give you a little push that maybe he's coming back sooner than we're comfortable with thinking?
Very deep, say the least. But you really gotta teach me how to dream. Is there any way you sleep in a unique way? Any positions?
I don't know. I think it's because I don't have a Muslim family. So I think it's like they're my Muslim family. It sounds silly, but I feel like if you don't have that connection, I feel like they sometimes go out of their way to communicate with you, because I don't have a Muslim family to guide me. So sometimes if I was really struggling with my faith, I would dream of someone, and then they would give me answers to what I was looking for, or they would point me in the right direction. So at one point I was questioning my faith, thinking, this is back when I was single in Melbourne and really, really struggling with convert life. And then it was during Ramadan, which I was completely alone. And then I dreamt of Lady Masuma, and she told me to hurry up and get to Com. And then by the time I'd actually booked tickets, COVID happened. So no wonder why she told me to hurry up. But yeah, I think it's just kind of opening yourself up to their constructive criticism and their their guidance more than anything. People want lovely dreams. They want to see historical events, but they don't realize that if we're following them, they will guide us, whether we like it or not, and whether we accept their guidance is up to us in our discipline and our maturity.
Couldn't agree more. Sadly, that was all the time we got for today. So we thank
That's
you.
okay.
We thank you a lot. We appreciate you coming onto the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're always welcome back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back for anything. That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
So thanks to everyone for watching the podcast and listening to Sister Zainab Sajjad. And make sure you check out her paintings. And if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and remember to turn on notifications. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
الله أكبر لبيك حيدر علي علي علي